This episode of Calling It Now was brought to you by my generous supporters on Patreon. Let's begin.
And you did it right from the start.
Hey everyone, Suede here, and once again it's time to subject ourselves to the monthly amount of misunderstandings we here at NZHQ like to call Calling It Now. I'm excited for this week because we actually have a show with a connection to my home country's older, larger brother, whom we can't stand unless another country throws their hat into the ring, in which case we immediately double team them. Australia. So let's throw some seafood on the grill, wear hats with corks attached, and then do 5 other stereotypical things that aren't actually a thing over there before getting on with it. Before that though, we must brace the gates against the rising tide of briny commenters by going over the rules. This is a show where I watch, or perhaps subject myself to, the very first episode of an anime I've never seen. I give a brief synopsis, provide my personal, subjective opinion on whether I would keep watching based on this episode alone, and then call it now as to how the show's going to turn out. I understand that one episode is not enough to get a handle on most shows overall, but the first impression is still meant to hook you, and I'm just commenting on whether or not I would bite. Along the way, there's going to be some audience participation, so roll up your sleeves and get ready to arm wrestle your subconscious. This week's anime was commissioned by Trey McGowan, a longtime fan who continuously challenges me not to lose my PG rating by making the most obvious jokes surrounding his avatar species. I'm currently working through a long backlog of commissions, so they won't open back up again for a while, but when they do, I'll be sure to let you guys know. Now then, as I said, this week we have the fascinating collaboration between the Land of the Rising Sun and the Land of Plenty, Deltora Quest. It's a 65-episode show directed by Mitsuru Hongo, best known for Outlaw Star, for Studio OLM, which you also may know for their work on a little-known cult hit, Pokemon or something? It's based on the series of Australian children's serial fantasy novels of the same name by Emily Rodda, known for its imaginative bestiary and unique illustrations. Strangely, Rodda said that the reason she let OLM be the one to adapt her books was because theirs was the only offer that promised not to change the original story. It actually did very well over there, so much so that the series was extended from 52 episodes to 65 with an anime-only storyline, as well as spawning a manga adaptation and a Japan-only game. To be honest, with a success like that, I'm surprised there aren't more anime adaptations of prominent Western children's novels. Come on, Harry Potter, come on, Harry Potter, come on, Harry Potter. Anyway, I solemnly swear on my honor, such as it is, that I went into this episode completely blind, with even the production research being done after the fact. However, full disclosure, I did watch this and the second episode for one of my failed pilots, though I still have no idea what happens in the rest of the series, so it still works. I'm also using the dub this week, partly because of the Western source material, but also because it's actually incredibly tough to get subs or RAWs of this series. Heck, at the time of writing, there isn't even a sub option on Crunchyroll, and even the dodgy free anime sites, which I only ever go to in an extreme last resort, don't seem to have subs either. It's weird. Well, that out of the way, let's begin our hero's journey. You know, with this episode and Those Who Hunt Elves, it's intriguing how jarring it is for an anime's first episode not to have a cold opening. Heck, nowadays it's common for shows not to have any opening in the first episode, especially somewhat serious tone shows like this one. While we're on the opening though, there's something else unusual about it. Can you spot it? Yeah, there's no lyrics. It's a generic Game of Thrones style orchestral piece. Well, if Game of Thrones was made in the 90s. That I'm 99% sure was made specifically for the dub, but man, when's the last time that happened? It's interesting the trends that come and go, isn't it? The opening itself is both pretty and functional, though it doesn't say much about the characters other than they fight and fight and fight and fight and fight. Also, although we do get to see some interesting PS2 cutscene monsters, I have to wonder how they're going to handle characterization when there are only 3 characters shown in the entire opening. Well, aside from that, it's still a well done intro with above average animation, and it gives us a great classic shonen vibe, like one of those 90s toy sellers, except this time there's no toys. Well, I guess if you count the books. Anyway, it looks fun. How do we open it? Well, why don't we call it now? Is the opening scene A, an extended voiceover going into painstaking detail about the lore of this world and its prophecies? B, our protagonist expressing dissatisfaction with his lot in life and opining that he was meant for greater things? Or C, a rundown blacksmith guarded by Hobo Alan Moore? And the answer is... yeah, it's C. I know, pretty obvious. I'll put in some trickier ones later on, but I did like that the show played with my expectations a little. Give yourself 2 points if you got this or any future questions right, and wrong answers subtract a point to a minimum of 0. So then said grumpy blacksmith is all...
Hey, Leaf. Leaf.
What is it, my love? Leaf has already gone to town, to the market.
Wait, so you're not Leaf? It's kind of confusing when you respond like that. I'm your wife! I would have thought you could make the distinction. Yeah, but they don't know that. Hey? Anyway, where is that boy?
Don't you remember? Today is his 16th birthday.
And what is that supposed to mean? Is 16 the age of some kind of market hazing ritual or something? How long have you lived here? You of all people should know your son's puberty milestones. Yeah, but they don't. Who's they? So yes, after that incredibly awkward interaction, we join the townsfolk who are engaged in some good old-fashioned righteous fury at the local law enforcement because, Call it now. A. They've cordoned off the apple orchard because the apples belong to Fantasy Darth Vader now. B. They've executed a dog in the street for peeing on a fence displaying Fantasy Darth Vader's seal. Or C. They've beaten one of the townsfolk for suspected possession of illegal musical instruments. And the answer is...
As of today, these fruit trees have been deemed the property of the Shadow Lord.
A. Really? This is the demonstration of tyranny to have us sympathize with the resistance. Just some kind of malice. You're welcome, both of you who got that. Well, apparently that does indeed appear to be the case, as Sir Pointyface over here is all...
No one is permitted to trespass beyond these gates.
And this really riles up the townsfolk for some reason. Not the apples! The pie deficit will only increase. What will we leave on our table in an attempt to appear healthy until it rots? How will I learn to juggle now? Then a precious kid asks for an apple, and Sir Pointyface is all... I literally just said you can't. And then we finally meet our protagonist, Diet Link, over here. He shoots down an apple and does the whole Robin Hood thing.
Everything branded belongs to the Shadow Lord? Well, I don't see a brand on that apple she's holding.
Yeah, sure, kid. Anyway, after that endearing display, Diet Link then goads the guards into setting a marquee on fire, doing way more damage than the guards were before. What is his reaction?
Wow.
Strange. I've only done 4 episodes of this series, yet already 2 blondes have used the word wow in a weird way.
Oh!
Well, Grumpsmith and Mum see the smoke, and Mum's all, holy crap, the market's on fire! And Grumpsmith's all, well, he is 16 years old. Oh, very funny. Meanwhile, the guards are on some kind of single-minded crusade to capture Diet Link, and holy crap, are they trashing the town over an apple? I mean, the town looked perfectly functional during the earlier debacle, but now it looks like a titan stepped on it. Well, Diet Link's all, think, darn it, what did Dad always say to do in situations like this? Oh yeah, hold still until the plot holds your hand. So he threads the needle with the rope and comes across his angst totem and spots the evil empire symbol on the wall. Oh shoot, does this mean Fantasy Darth Vader owns the whole town? Why did he even need to specify the orchard if his ownership is already implicit? Boy, is my face red. Then the narrator kicks in and he's all...
There had been a time when the people of the land had known peace and prosperity.
Again, aside from the spiky guards, this looks exactly how it was before, but sure, carry on.
Then, from the Shadowlands, a great enemy cast his greedy eyes on Deltora. Separately, the 7 tribes were powerless to defeat it. A blacksmith by trade, Auden dreamt of a belt that would unite the 7 gems, and with it, the tribes.
So wait, a singular Dark Lord took over the entire land, presumably with some kind of evil army, and none of the races formed any kind of alliance to fight them until a random blacksmith made a belt and said, hey, why don't y'all stick your gems of inconceivable power into this here whatchamahoozit and give it to me? What could possibly go wrong? Ignoring the fact that 7 separate nations who were so hostile suddenly forgave all their differences because a guy made a belt, but really, none of them tried to unite under a common enemy until that point. I mean, if this world was suddenly invaded by aliens, I bet even North and South Dakota would band together for the cause of not dying, but what do I know? The narrator continues by saying, and then the blacksmith became the king, and the kingdom was at peace until Fantasy Darth Vader just kind of waited for everyone to forget about it before breaking into the castle and destroying the belt. Then, without the power of the belt, a 7-nation army couldn't hold him back. So the world was basically destroyed, the gems of power were scattered, darkness rules with an iron fist, and the last king went into exile after basically saying, wow, my bad. Then we rejoin Grumpsmith and Alan Moore, and Grumpsmith's all, now that the market has been set on fire, I feel that a great upheaval is approaching. And then we cut to Fantasy Darth Vader himself as he consults with his loyal lieutenant, who happens to be, call it now, a silver-haired hunk with wings and a shirt that seems to miss the point of being a shirt. B, an evil clown who's way too transparent in his aspirations. Or C, a spiky lizard man who seems to be doing a really bad Gollum impression. And the answer is...
If there is something troubling you, my lord, allow me to serve you better. If it is the 7 gems that disturb you, my lord, I gladly offer to retrieve them for you.
B, yes, Wormy the clown over here, his... diversity hire? Why does this eldritch deity need humans? Anyway, Fantasy Darth Vader's all, Wormy, I feel a change in the air, and it concerns me. And Wormy's all, tell you what, why don't you reveal the gems' locations to me, and then I'll promise I'll bring them to you. You'll be indestructible. You must think I'm somewhat stupid, don't you, Wormy? Not at all, my liege. What if my manner would indicate anything but eternal loyalty to your quivering mass? Oh, jeez. Get a clown, the Eldritch Pantheon said. They're a riot at parties. Nobody notices if they go insane from standing in your presence, and the betrayal rate is surprisingly low this millennia. What a joke. Then after that interlude, we rejoin the Smith family as Diet Link stands up to his father. Dad, I can't just stand by and do nothing. But son, nothing is all we can do without the gems, so... You make a good point. Alan Moore, bring out the call to adventure. So Alan Moore goes out the back, brings in the briefcase from Pulp Fiction, and... Oh no, it turned Diet Link into a children's trading card. Well, I admit I didn't see that coming, and they said they wouldn't deviate from the books. No, it's the belt made by that blacksmith. What are the odds? It turns out Diet Link's dad was great friends with...
recounted the years he spent growing up with King Endon.
Wow, that was clunky. Honestly, what's even the point of having this conversation when you're willing to just throw the narrator around willy-nilly like this? Well, anyway, Grumpsmith is all, the king is in hiding, and the gems kind of resent him for causing their breakup. However, his heir is out there somewhere, and only you can gather the 7 gems into the sacred Whatchamahoozit and give it to him. Why only me? Well, fine, if you don't want to. Gimme! So after laying out all the boss locations he'll encounter...
The Lake of Tears, the City of the Rats, the Shifting Sands, Dread Mountain, the Maze of the Beast, the Valley of the Lost, and lastly, the Bog of Eternal Stench!
Grumpsmith gives Diet Link the belt. Does the glowing hold some kind of significance? None whatsoever. Okay. And his trusty sword, while his mum gives him, call it now. A golden ring of minor copyright infringement. B, a cloak with love in every stitch. Or C, the dinkiest bow in the history of fantasy. And the answer is...
This cloak has been made with all my strength and with all my love.
B. Yes, Diet Link is given a love cloak, but of course that's not all it does.
You will find that this is a very special cloth.
Mom, I'm literally going on a life or death assignment here. I'd say it's pretty imperative I know what my equipment does. Mom, how is the cloth special?
Leaf, have a safe journey and come back soon.
Well, I'm on a journey to retrieve 7 gems of unlimited power from 7 Dark Souls bosses with no backup, a broken antique, a toad sticker, and a mystical cloak that does Ganon knows what. How could this possibly go sideways? Actually, I'm coming with you. Oh, and my dad's hobo buddy is joining me. Truly, this shall be a fellowship for the ages. Ah, but there's something you don't know about me, boy. Oh, that's smart. Gotta remember to use scissors next time. And Diet Link's all, oh no, he's hot. So he sets off with Alan Moore, who reveals he was actually a guard for the king who randomly got punted off the tower just in time to see Grumpsmith seeing the king off with his pregnant wife. What are the odds? But before that, Diet Link receives his trial by fire as he encounters a spike face. How does he respond? Well, call it now. A, his mother's cloak is revealed to be an invisibility cloak, so the guard just steers through him. B, his dad's sword is revealed to be sentient and nearly breaks Diet Link's arm moving on its own. Or C, he chokes like a little chump and has to be saved by Alan Moore. And the answer is... C. Well, this is a great start, isn't it? Oh, but don't worry. After that incident, they immediately stumble into a forbidden wood and get knocked out by nightmare owls. I can almost taste the freedom now. End credits. Ugh, now I know that theme is a dub-only composition. No anime would be caught dead with the same opening and ending themes. Well, anyway, that was Deltora Quest. Did it hook me? Well, it didn't hook me personally, but I can definitely see why it hooked the kids in Japan. The whole thing plays out almost beat for beat like a classic JRPG. It even has a party of 3. Well, not in this episode, obviously, but the opening makes it abundantly clear that a new member will join up pretty darn soon. I mean, you can imagine exactly how each scene would play out in 16-bit graphics. Is it any wonder that a Japan-only game was made based on the series? Now, on a serious note here, I've been asked why I don't follow the 3-episode rule, and there are 2 reasons for that. 1, it would take way too long to do synopses for 3 episodes, and 2, this is a show about real first impressions, the kind that help you decide whether or not you even want to give it the benefit of 3 episodes. In this case, even though I really like the Full Metal Alchemist inspired character design and the animation is decent, the overly simplistic plot with way too many contrivances just isn't my bag, baby. Maybe it's really awesome with some amazing twists, but it just doesn't really seem like that'll be the case. The voice acting didn't help either. Maybe it's better in Japanese, but again, the Japanese version is not even on Crunchyroll. It's so weird. Would I watch it to the end if I had time? Believe it or not, this is actually a tricky one to answer despite my earlier thoughts. Just because something doesn't hook me initially doesn't mean that I wouldn't be willing to see it if it redeems itself throughout its run. Plus, the idea of following a no-frills, old-fashioned fantasy adventure to its conclusion is a great way to relax. So if I had time, yeah, I think I would watch it, at least a fair ways in. I want to see if they patch up any of the plot holes I noticed, and I do like the emphasis on the different creatures that inhabit the world. However, the setup doesn't seem to lend itself to too many surprises, so I'm not sure I'd actually watch it to the end. It depends how strong the characterization is. Well, now that I've established that I'd be willing to follow the story, where do I personally think it's going to go? Well, calling it now, there's going to be a new party member joining. I know, shocker. But once she's part of the group, the series for the most part will be standard road trip fantasy. Every episode there's a new place, monster, or boss battle. How do we defeat it? Hooray, let's move on. Wormy will show up a couple of times to taunt the trio, but not before showing up in disguise a couple of times so we can get a jaunty "you" near the end of the series. They'll finally have to face him down before getting to the big bad because, of course, Wormy wants the glory of of defeating it all to himself so that he can rule the world afterwards. Unfortunately, he gets the upper hand on Diet Link because he's grown too confident after obtaining all the gems, but Alan Moore takes the hit and dies a hero's death, but not before revealing that he was the last king all along. Yeah, the whole "I just happened to be a guard who was there" seems a little too convenient. He'll also reveal that the reason Diet Link can activate the belt isn't because he's his son, like the show seems to be hinting at. He's actually his nephew. Grumpsmith was actually the king's brother, and since that means Diet Link technically has royal blood, that's why everyone thought it was him. But then who was the real heir that the queen gave birth to in exile? Why, it's the girl, of course. The timelines match up and she needs to be involved somehow, right? So they team up, beat the big bad, and all is swell. Though I am curious about how the Japanese version continues for an extra 13 episodes. Maybe it's about how the economy recovers after the dictators fall. But what am I talking about? That's way too implausible. No, it's far more likely that as we continue through the series, it becomes more and more apparent that Diet Link represents Einstein, Alan Moore represents Kenneth Bainbridge, the girl represents the atomic bomb, and the belt is a metaphor for the Manhattan Project. It makes sense, you see. The Dark Lord has united the nations in a dictatorial axis of evil, and nothing seems to be working to overcome the sweeping plague of invading darkness. Only by bringing the greatest powers of the oppressed nations, here represented by the jewels, can the girl be activated and put a stop to the onslaught. See, that's why the Japanese were so interested in the IP. They were intrigued as to how the other side saw it. Oh, it's so obvious. A while back I was able to do all my patrons in one breath. I wonder if I can do it now. Obviously I won't do these ones, but there are still quite a few more in the $10 tiers and upwards. Here goes. One breath, no cheating. John, P.O.B., Joel Schuler, Grey Morality, Alison Bennett, Jonathan Powell, Evan Bauer, Matt Stores, Cy, Bruce Razorbose, Calvin Atkinson, Coating Kitsune, Christian Larson, Mitchell Hinkerman, Mummy Watching, Colleen, Henry H., Jacob Sullivan, Roosevelt James Warner IV, Brandon A. Hall, Wesley Fox, Ginkgo, Gilly Elfson, Trey McGowan, The Rooster, Mark Dean, The Card Game King, Grant Gangle, The Lich, Colleen French, The Wheelchair Lady, Loomsy96, The Spandex Read Guy, Taking 101, The One Piece Guy, Ryan Griffin, The Back to the Future Guy, Andrew Welch, The Reading Guy, Zachary Taylor, The President, Zach Keller, The Kingdom Hearts Guy, Super Bunny Bun, The Cute Bunny Rabbit. I was so close. There's also Elia Rivette, Stephen Walker, Dark Major 7077, The Dark Master, James Nicholson, Wheels, Jonathan Johnson, Cameron McLeod, and Joe. Those are the ones that still haven't received their art, but it's on the way. Next time. One day I'll get you all in one breath. So, that was Deltora Quest. Remember that this is still early days and I'm always looking for feedback. Thanks for indulging, and calling it now, you're going to look at apples with a little more appreciation this week.